So, tell me, how many of y'all out there believe in extraterrestrials, aliens, ETs, and, you know, the abominable snowman and Bigfoot? This is about UFOs. I just want to tell y'all this, oh, fuck, that might have been a ghost right there, but we ain't going to discuss ghosts right now. I just want to tell the story before I share some other things in the comment box. I'm going to say about 9 or 10 years ago, I used to work for American Remodeling under Ron Goodlett. But anyway, after work, we'd always go to his office in the garage. And I actually used to live with him there for a while, but we'd just talk about work and the subject of alien, UFOs and aliens. And I told, he tried his best to tell me, what, get me to believe or prove me wrong. That he said, aliens, I said, man, we're the only true beings with intellect, by the grace of God, and anyway, yada, yada, not yada, 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 in a different aspect, but yada, 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 and continuing. But anyway, and he goes, I bring in God in the situation. He goes, all right, look up at Zechariah, verse, and I got the Bible, one of his Bibles, I guess, and looked it up, and he said, read it. And it does, when I read it, it does make you think, about aliens. I said, man, I still don't, that don't mean they're talking about aliens, we still arguing or contemplating, whatever the word is, and I tell you truthfully, that's when I had my own place. When I went home, usually I flop down on the couch. I turn on the TV and flop down on the couch before I jump in the shower, And I take, wait a minute. When I went home, after the discussion with my boss, I went home, like I said, I usually flop down on the couch and rest for a minute, then I go jump in the shower and go to bed. I'll flop down on the couch and turn on the TV, rest, just meditate or whatever and jump in the shower. Alright, go jump in the shower, go to bed. Next day I go to work. Let's see, what was it? It was something about, wait a minute. Yeah, but before I went to bed that night, the first night, it was something about my prayer being answered. That's what it was. Somewhere I, after the conversation with my boss, Ron Goodlett, I went home and I prayed immediately. I said, Lord, I put my faith in prayer. I said, Lord, is there alien, are we the only living, is there aliens out in space? He knows what I was talking about, the good Lord, where'd that go in there? Anyway, it was not, had to been the night before, and I went back to work the next day. I don't know, somewhere, it was real close. Anyway, next day I went to work, and when we just started talking about UFOs again. And the second day, I came home, flopped down on the couch as usual before jumping in the shower, and I turned on the TV, and just lay there with my eyes closed. And I tell you no lie, this is my prayer being answered, because I can't remember, if it was, I think it was that I prayed the night before when I went to work, and this conversation, we talked about it again. And the second day, it's real close after I prayed. Anyway, long story short, without my memory mentality fucked up around it, excuse my language, I'm just telling you the main part is how my prayers answered. After I prayed, asking God, are we that special, or are they aliens, The second day or the day, that particular same day, like I said, before I jumped in the shower, I flopped down on the couch and turned on the TV and just closed my eyes, And this is my prayer answered. After I prayed, usually if I turn on TV and lay down, there might be something else on. But this time, when I lay down, close my eyes for a minute, or whatever, if you just rest and, just meditating. There was a man, I ain't watched TV, I just turned it on, and I was just sitting there, I can hear him talking, I heard him say something about UFOs, and I jumped up, and there was this man, at a desk with the TV camera on him, and he automatically he was talking about. Well, I was listening to him first, I think. That's why I jumped up when he said, and that's another resemblance too. He said, people think that the Zechariah verse is about aliens. He goes, no, it is not. And whatever he said, I was moved by what he said, and it made perfect sense. And that was the main subject of this story too. Is I prayed to God, the night before, and and that was my prayer answer, guys, for real though. But anyway, I just remembered the first day. After me and him argued, he said, no, it's aliens, little green man, whatever, E.T., and I said, no, they ain't, we just kind of argue or just disagree with each other, whatever. And after that day, I went home and I prayed. I got on my knees and prayed. I said, Lord, I put my first in my prayer, and, I went up the next day, we disagreeing with each other again, and that the second day, the day after I prayed, as usual, after work we had coffee and brung up the story of UFOs and discussing UFOs. And anyway, this time when I came home, I turned on the TV, something else is on, which is the preacher man at the desk, and I popped down. And I just sat there with my eyes closed, and that's when he started talking about, it's something about Zechariah. See, that's what my boss said. He said, look up Zechariah. I said, man, I'm telling you. And that was my prayer answer. It was the same verse, what my boss told me. And I was just sitting there listening, flopped down on the couch, and when I heard him say Zechariah, I knew it was my prayer answer. And I got up and was watching him. And that was my prayer answer, because whatever he said made perfect sense. But anyway, but yeah.
What do you think about UFOs, Black Beauty? Yeah, I was agreeing with what you said. Get that phone out of my face.